Hey everybody, before the show starts, log on to musicmoneymakeover.com/shop to download all my books and free guides. And while you're there, click on the book a call tab to book a one-on-one Zoom call with me to get all your music business questions solved. Enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Music Money Makeover Show. My name is Casey Graham, and on this episode, look, we got a lot of heavy stuff to get into. This episode is coming by way of the 100%ers, all right? This is something that I've been watching unfold over the last few days, and it's growing. There's a list of over or approaching about 2,000 songwriters who have signed this petition to demand record companies and, music publishers, because these are songwriters, to change up their contracts and their MDRC clauses that we're going to get into in this video, and to demand percentages for songwriters. And so this is huge. And so even though this may not seem like a sensationalized video for, the biggest stars, this is something that's very important to all artists mainly, and songwriters too, because they don't get their just due. So I got to break this open letter down written by Tiffany Red. But before we do that, I've got to jump into Copyright Explained. And as usual, if you want to donate to the channel, you can hit it right over here on the side, or you can skip ahead past Copyright Explained with the chapters below. But please watch this Copyright Explained before we do this video, because it may get difficult for you to understand this business as we dig deeper into the issues at hand with the 100%ers. Let's go. Copyright, the sole right which an author has in their own original literary compositions. The exclusive right of an author to print, publish, and vend their own literary works for their own benefit. All right. Now, of course, with the copyright, there are two rights of copy. The music industry operates and revolves around these two copyrights, and that is the masters and the publishing. All right. The masters refer to the sound recording copyright, sound recordings as in records, masters, phonograms, or the audio recording file, i.e. the WAV, MP3, AIFF of the composition and or song. Now you can collect the royalties due and the proceeds due from the master recording from your distributor. All right, for those of you all who are independent and not signed to major labels, that's places like TuneCore and DistroKid. You can also collect the sound recording performance royalties from PPL over in the UK and Sound Exchange here in America, even though America does not pay for sound recording performance royalties in all aspects. All right. You can also collect from PPL if you live in America as well. Now, publishing is considered a performing arts copyright. Performing arts as in the composition, sheet music, MIDI files, publishing, or songs to be performed. The performance royalties for your publishing can be picked up at BMI, CSAC, or ASCAP here in America, PRS over in the UK, and then the mechanical royalties for that publishing for that song can be picked up at HFA, that's the Harry Fox agency, Music Reports, the MLC, and over in the UK, MCPS. You can also pick up your digital lyric display royalties at Lyric Find and Music Match. Now, there are 6 rights of copy to be exercised to the fullest extent of the United States Code under Title 17, and that's the right to reproduce, the right to prepare derivative works, the right to distribute, the right to public performance, the right to public display, and the right to digital performance. Jump into this thing really quickly. I got my screen recorder on. The 100%ers, I really respect Tiffany Red and what she's doing for all songwriters really across the world at this point. The list on the petition that they have on the site is grown to, it's pushing over 2,000 songwriters, and that's covering a lot of the industry. So people are really taking note. Here are a lot of key songwriters involved, and I'm going to get into a little bit of a brief paragraph on, what the 100%ers are and who they represent. You got some legendary people here: Eddie Blackman, Makeover Woods, Mickey Shiloh. I have a client who just did a record with her. Cadence. It's going to keep going. The list is going to keep growing, and there are major writers on here who are not listed. Who are we? The 100%ers was founded by Grammy Award-winning singer, songwriter, producer Tiffany Red in July of 2020 after going viral for speaking out about pinning K-pop hit Boss by NCT and how poorly she was compensated for it. Red decided to create an organization that advocates for people like her. The organization attracted powerhouse singer-songwriter Blush as she experienced similar struggles struggles as Red. Together, Red and Blush began speaking out on unfair pay for songwriters. Okay, now that's a BuzzFeed article right there you can check out. But this has since made
Forbes since then. All right, what we do, the 100%ers, is a nonprofit organization that advocates for the music creative community. Since its inception, the 100%ers Foundation has collected over 1,000 signatures. That's pushing 2,000 at this point. It's getting to the point where it's not ridiculous. Just the claims that she's making is just fair. It's just plain fair. And she's not over exaggerating her open letter. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the open letter, and then we're going to jump into the explanation of this. All songwriters on my channel need to see this, hear this, and understand if you want to keep working in this industry, big, medium, or large, or small, medium, or large. I don't care. But if you don't know how to get your coin, what are you doing? Why are you doing this music? Nobody does this just to do it, you know? So we got to get into our open letter because this is of great concern to me and others that I work with. So let's jump into that open letter. I'm gonna go through it. Well, actually, let me give you a little bit more about Tiffany Red. Here's a little bit more here on her website. Of course, this needs to be updated, I can tell, but here's some major stuff here. There you go. All right, check out Tiffany Red. Kudos to her. Before we get into that, let's go into the open letter. I'm going to address the meat. Actually, let's go into the slides because I have the meat of this thing in my slides, and I cover this portion because the other part is, you can read the other part. It's statements and stuff. So, all right, Tiffany Red, the 100%ers open letter to the industry, along with Songwriters of North America. The annual Music by the Numbers report highlights the devastating year for music creators who reportedly lost 65% of their income over the course of the pandemic, with that number rising to 80% for those depending mostly on live performances or in-studio work. Based on Bureau of Labor Statistics reports, this means American musicians were forced to scrape together a living with anywhere from $8,199 to $14,396 over the course of 2020, and that is not an understatement. However, despite these devastating losses, you and your colleagues raked in more than $12 billion, with $10 billion of that from streaming alone during the pandemic. So as songwriters, producers, and engineers lived at or below the poverty line, record labels enjoyed a nearly 10% increase. The feast while we famine must stop. Now, she's addressing the major labels. I didn't read that first paragraph, but yes, she's addressing all major labels. Now, the music industry, the world, and the times we are living in have evolved, and we are simply calling on you to evolve with it. We're calling on you to meet us in a place where we can thrive creatively in spaces where we aren't living advance to advance. That's important. And accumulating debt, that's important. Just to stay above water, that's important. We have come privately to the table asking for these things individually, with the response of low revenues and the struggling music industry outlook. However, with the public reporting of massive profits and early 2000s level margins, you as label heads can no longer in good conscience continue, that's if they have any, continue to base compensation on a system created when your companies had to cover the cost of manufacturing, records, and CDs. That is very important right there. Very important. All right. So for 10 years straight, most of these contracts haven't switched under the streaming era because a lot of artists don't even have physical press CDs when they're signed to these deals. All right. Now, as a collective unit, we are asking you to come to the table and simply do the right thing. Until this happens, we will continue to speak out and against, 1, the unfair division of royalties. Okay. 2, the burden of recoupment without a say in budgets. That's important. Burden of recoupment without a say in budgets. Very important right there. Okay. Because the artist budget or the budget to produce a song under the publishing company can go sky high. I'm going to get into this. Let's just keep going. Having to feed ourselves on empty promises and dreams instead of livable wages, fair contracts, and a seat at the table. A seat at the table. Let's keep going. Now we got to dig into her points here. These are her points. All right. Therefore, in solidarity with the Ivors Academy, I want to make sure I say it right. That's in the UK. We, along with our allies, can call on you as chairman and CEOs and presidents to, 1, create standard provisions entitling non-performing songwriters to share in a minimum of 4% of the label share of master royalties. Super, super important, because if you don't know, and I have expressed on this channel and in my books, I think in my books, but I know on the channel, Songwriters don't get a royalty at all. They either have to split it with the producer or just take the mechanical royalty, but we're going to dig into that. 2, revise the current artist agreements for producer royalties to no longer deduct from the artist share of the master royalties and instead deduct directly from the label share. Major key for artists. Major key for artists right there. All right. Now, the point 1 is a major key if the artist is the songwriter as well. But number 2 is a major key for artists because that producer, the producer royalty should not affect what the artist owns. All right. They shouldn't have to be responsible for that. And 3, establish budgets not subject to recoupment to cover a minimum of $120 per diem expenses incurred in the recording process for meals, lodging, and transportation. Now, let's jump into my graphs here. So this is the old format, all right? And as you can see, this is a 20% cut of the 80%. That's why I just did a generalized one right here, 80-20 deal. I like to use 80-20 deals because they're easy to explain. And on average, you know, that's pretty much what it is. And then they start to break down from there. So here's a reduction. You can see the reduce in the 20%. The mechanical is the artist's responsibility. The producer's royalty is the artist's responsibility. And then the artist gets left with roughly about 6%. Okay. And then all the debt that is incurred in the recording process, it gets paid for out of this 20% right here. All right. And the producer, once they relieve themselves of the debt or their advance that they got advanced out, they can start getting paid first. And that's usually what happens. All right. So roughly the artist is going to have to eat off 6% of all the earnings. And that's an overgeneralization of everything. All right. But if we go back, we're going to address, you know, point 1. Point 1, creating a standard provision entitling non-performing songwriters to share in a minimum of 4% of the label's share of master royalties. This is what their proposed format looks like, where the mechanical royalty would be the artist's responsibility and the artist gets a greater royalty. See, artists, all my artists who watch my channel, you can see now that this is very, very important here. Extremely important for you to understand and watch this video. Because if the producer royalty now gets removed from yours, and the songwriter royalty gets removed from your responsibility as well, then now you have more room to eat. This is what Tiffany Red is proposing right here. But here's what I propose, that the artist shouldn't have to be responsible for the mechanical royalty because they're not producing the master recordings in the first place. All right? And they shouldn't have to be responsible for the producer royalty or the songwriter royalty anyway. They should only have to take care of the debt out of their actual full 20%. This is a fair standard deal with an artist that doesn't have much leverage, but that has a little bit of momentum. This is what I feel is fair. This is what I feel is fair, meaning that the artist will have to make 5 times the money in order to pay back the label. All right? Let's keep rolling here. But didn't I explain those? I'm going to use my didn't I not. Didn't I not explain this stuff in these 2 videos right here? And they have the same explanation in them. Go back and watch the calculations because you'll understand what this means right here. You'll totally get it. Go back and watch the calculations in both of these videos because a lot of you all found me through this video right here. Okay? Let's keep rolling. Now, on top of that, we got to address Clause 3, establish budgets not subject to recoupment to cover a minimum of $120 per diem expenses incurred in the recording process for meals, lodging, and transportation. For those of you all who may have just signed your publishing deals in 2020 or getting ready to sign this year, this is a hidden secret. So you get the advance, you get that loan, and everybody gets that, $250,000 or something like that, $500,000 if you really popping like that, and you got catalog, but mainly around $250,000, $100,000 to $250,000. This is what you're going to get right here. You get that advance, and you're cool with that, right? You got to pay it back off of the songs that you record, but this is the hidden thing. Those auxiliary expenses. That's like another credit card you don't know about that's being tacked on in the background. Okay? And because this is happening in the background right here, right? That's getting added to your debt that you got to pay back. When do you have to pay it back, Casey? Well, before we do that, we got to talk about this, the minimum delivery release commitment. Now, this was on Forbes, and I'm going to address the last slide, but I got to talk about this one first. As songwriters sound the alarm on their contracts, they acknowledge the work being done at many of the major music companies, including BMG, Sony Music Publishing, Warner Chappell Music, and Universal Music Publishing Group to begin to eliminate minimum delivery and release commitments. Because, see, now you're going to understand this thing with the combination of this. All right? So, basically, in a nutshell, overgeneralized, I got to give that disclaimer. This is what it looks like. You do a 50-50 co-publishing deal. Yes, you wrote one song yourself. Great job. But this only counts as half a song. So if you did a deal for 6 songs, you really got to do 12. You actually need to write 2 songs to equal 100%. And they may have to be released only on major labels. That's the trick bag. But anyway, let's keep rolling. That prevents you from doing independent work, kind of like artists or actors being signed to guilds and they can only do union work. It operates the same way. All right. Now, on top of that, you got to pay the per diem back and the advance back in the accounting term or period on your contract. You got to do that, or else what? Let's not talk about the old school suspensions, but that's an ugly looking dude. But it was on that line in the back of the contract over there. Okay. So that's how that works. Got to pay this thing back on top of this thing back, and you got to do it in time on a major label, no independence, because the collection has to be there in order to pay back all of the debt. And then if we go back to this thing, originally, you can see that the songwriter never got a royalty, and the only thing they got was this mechanical. And it was split. Mind you, the mechanical gets split between the publisher gets a cut of that mechanical. And then on top of that, you got to split that mechanical with any other writers and producers on the record. So at that point, it really makes it hard when the only thing you got to pay back the money with is performance, royalties, mechanical royalties. Like you will never get out. It's going to be a while, and you got to pay it back on time on top of that. So this is why their proposal, which is this, is good. And then, like I say, if that's good, man, shoot for the stars and fight for this. This is gorgeous right here. All right. Anyway, let me hop out of this. So now there you have it. That's what's going on with the 100%ers. That's how these record labels are under fire. Now, for many of you all who've never signed a publishing deal, never worked in the studio with any of these major writers or artists, you really don't understand. So be careful when you make those comments below the videos, because all these writers, these artists, these producers, they make the entire ecosystem of the music business go round, all the way down to the person that supplies food to the studio and the craft services to the concert venues and the sound people and the roadies and the session musicians. It could either be at church. You got to understand how vast this industry is. And with all the money being sucked out, it is a huge problem. All right. What is being proposed here and what I just showed you in this video, if you watched all the way to the end, thank you to the around 30% who usually watches to the end. What I'm proposing to you in this video, or what they were proposing, is just fair pay. They're not over asking. I think what they're asking for is reasonable at this point. At this point, enough music and catalog has been produced, and this is well and long overdue, this type of conversation right here. Anyway, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Please share to all your musician friends out there, because they need this education too. All right? And I'll see you all next week. All right, everybody, download the books and guides, and don't forget to text me if you need to text me. I'll see you later. Peace. Hey everybody, thanks for watching the show. Log on to musicmoneymakeover.com/shop to download all my books and free guides. And while you're there, click on the book a call tab to get a one-on-one Zoom call with me to get all your music business questions answered and solved. Thanks for watching.